Hey everybody, welcome to Fireside Chat. This is the May edition of Fireside, and this will be coming out in August for those of you who are listening for free. Before we get started, I wanted to mention a couple things. We didn't get any questions submitted, so which is okay. That's okay. We came up with some stuff to fill the time. I wanted to remind everybody, if you have any question at all, you can submit it via everywhere on the internet. We have our email, losersofInitiative@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can just comment on Facebook, really, honestly. Just label it as a fireside question. We'd be okay to find it that way. I think you can message on Facebook that way. I'm not sure how the internets work. Yeah, you can find us pretty much anywhere and everywhere. So if you have a question at all, be sure to submit it, and we will get it into one of our episodes. Also, I wanted to mention, we do these obviously very recent, but if you are listening to this because you're lost and happen to listen to this episode first, and then you just started listening to episode 1, let's say, you can submit a question from episode 1. I mean, you can go back as far as you want to go, and obviously you can ask us just fun off-the-wall questions like we'll have tonight, or you can also ask us anything relatively personal. We'll kind of determine that. If you're not sure, just submit it, and we'll kind of modify it to make it fit, or obviously things about the story and podcasting and table talking anyways. So,
yeah, there's no statute of limitations on your questions.
We want to hear anything and everything from you guys, so feel free to submit.
Okay, and Greg, we did get one question.
Oh.
It was, why do you know Vanessa Carlton?
Yeah, I did actually
so well?
see that on our Patreon. I don't remember that exactly in the episode, but I didn't know who it was by. So, why do you know that's who that was? Yeah, see? Okay, so I won that fight. All right, so moving on. All right, so our first question. I wanted to start, so we just finished up Mutants and Masterminds. The finale just came out 10 days ago, roughly, right? 10 days ago, and
May 5th, yeah.
Yeah, so we had ourselves kind of a discussion, obviously outside a podcast, on our thoughts and feelings on Mutants and Masterminds. Nate, I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of kick it off on giving the general synopsis of what that's about and what your thoughts are.
Well, okay, so my thoughts on Mutants and Masterminds is it has a different dynamic than what I'm used to playing, and where it's very team-driven, in which when you think about superheroes, you kind of have to be part of a team. But a lot of their combat things were all teamwork feats.
Before we get into that, we'll do that next.
Fine.
All right. My thing is so this is kind of where it all started. We got to discussing about the feeling of the finale of Mutants and Masterminds. And it was very clear, almost to all of us actually, that it just felt blah. It was very disappointing, and I hope that doesn't translate into the episode itself. But as players and Brad as a DM, it just felt lackluster, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Mainly because we didn't, us being there didn't really matter in my mind. Like, no matter what, this dude could have just finished, stopped the events.
Yeah.
In my mind. So, it was pointless. We were losing the fight, and I forget who, Master Yao? Mr. Chi?
Yi Yao, something.
Yi Yao?
One of them's good, one of them's bad.
Yin Yang?
Yeah, we basically delayed him to have what's his butt, the lizard thing. We're really good at this.
I know.
The lizard guy come up and basically delayed him. Do you think that's what made it feel like, I don't want to say lame, but, feel less dramatic, less
I feel like I didn't do anything.
Well, you didn't. You tickled a man for an hour
I
straight.
mean, that was me doing stuff. But, I mean, honestly, I don't, you just threw punches back and forth a bunch. And Mr. Mutiel mind blasted, tried to, I guess.
And then ran off, yeah.
Yeah, and then, I just tickled someone. But, it wasn't, a big final episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. Brad, what were your thoughts DM-wise?
I didn't want to say anything there because I wanted you guys to kind of...
I have a couple thoughts, too, but I'll conclude them later. I talk a lot in these damn things.
Well, as a game master in Mutants Mastermind, similar to kind of Nate's feel, it is a different enough system where, to be a good superhero story, you've got to have, the big, just like every story, really, the big opponent to overcome. but it's more difficult when everything is exaggerated. When like the bad guy is a superhero bad guy and the good guys are superhero, it tends to lend itself to feel forced. You have to either fudge some rolls, or because it can get out of hand extremely fast. So you have to be very careful as a DM in a free form. Like if this wasn't a podcast, if we were just some friends sitting around playing the game, it would be different, because there would be a lot more free form to it. Your actions would have longer implications. The story isn't relegated to a smaller amount of time. With a almost like, writing the script for a movie, you've got a finite end that you have to plan for. Okay? But in a role-playing game, how the characters get to that end is up to them, so to speak, which is sort of guided with the movie, or guided with the the storyline, so to speak. But you want the players to guide themselves to the ending. With a superhero story, it's a lot more difficult because, with super resistances and super strengths and things like that, you don't want to cheese it out. You don't want to have them find the kryptonite and then just easily beat the enemy at the end. But you don't want to make it so that the enemy is impossible to beat. So it's a fine line as a GM when you're running a superhero campaign, much more so than, like your traditional D&D fantasy worlds, or, as hopefully you'll see with upcoming and previous jumps, where it was a lot more dramatic with the characters' actions and things like that. And I'm definitely not saying that Mutants and Masterminds or the superhero settings in general are less dramatic, but in a finite sort of closed space that we deal with, it makes it much more difficult in a setting like that to come up with relevance and cinematic, dramatic, like, oh my God, I did this big thing, sacrificed myself to save the party kind of stuff is very difficult to do when everybody that you're dealing with is, snap their fingers and kill half the population. That kind of stuff. It's harder. It's much harder to be a game master. Now, I'm not saying that I wasn't up for the challenge, but I felt that, if I was given a more time, more of a free form setting than a podcast, it would have been a much different game.
Yeah,
for sure.
So for listeners at home who are like thinking about playing a superhero campaign, by all means, Mutants and Masterminds is fine. It is absolutely a great system. But I think any sort of like, really, that was it feeling you get from listening to our adventure is easily brushed aside when you're running a homebrew campaign or a campaign at home without the limitations that we kind of are forced to face.
Right.
Yeah, and so like going back to just the tactics and dynamics of Mutants and Masterminds, like in most RPG games that I've played, like, yeah, you have some teamwork, but the mechanics in this one was like you have to call out what you're doing to be like, hey, I'm going to do this to assist this teammate so that they can, like, he can do this, or it like deters this enemy from doing this kind of a thing. And it was just a real change in pace that I'm not used to, just because it's like, oh yeah, the barbarian's going to run up and hack and slash and take a bunch of damage while Archer shoots from a distance kind of a thing. Like
they do what they do. They have their roles.
Yeah, they have their own thing, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. But to call that out, like planning ahead, it's not one of my strong suits, is being like, oh, okay, this guy's resistant to this, so I need to assist by tickling this one so that his AC goes down or whatever. And
this is, so again, we'll get to that in a second. Nate just really wants to get ahead. This is why I don't give you notes to see what's ahead, Nate. You get too ballsy. Anyways, so back to Brad on our finale. That's what I'm focused on, is our finale. Did we cover all the things that you had envisioned story-wise? Did we complete the things you wanted, but just in a very quick and less epic fashion, basically?
Yes and no. So it ended as it was going to end, with Dejun coming in and doing, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Dejun coming in and basically putting the kibosh on Master Yi's evil plan. Okay?
Right.
How it got to that point was dependent on the character's actions, and I'm a big fan of not the DM or GM not telling the characters what to do. And so, yes, the ending happened how I wanted it to happen at the very end. But I think the events leading up to it, like in the last episode, possibly the last 2 episodes, it seemed dry to me just because the avenues weren't fulfilled as much, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, partially to blame is the GM, actually, always. If an adventure has that feel of like, what happened there? And that is, on my shoulders a bit. But I think overall it ended how it was supposed to end. And yeah, I do feel sort of like it could have been better.
Right. That it wasn't bad, but it could have been better.
Right.
Yeah.
There was, and as far as your question is like opportunities missed, absolutely. It is not the DM's job to plan out what if scenarios. It is the DM's job to plan out when they do it, what happens, like on the spot kind of thing.
Right.
Know what's going on at all times in all places, so that when the characters make a surprise turn, you can adjust and react appropriately. That's kind of, and I once again, I think that there wasn't a whole lot with the way the story goes to kind of give you the option for that. It's one of those situations where a bad role-playing session that would have made a good movie, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
Just like there are good movies that would make horrible role-playing games.
Visually, it would have been really good. But
correct.
Yeah.
If you were watching it happen kind of thing, that'd be awesome. It'd be a great movie. But as far as being a character in it playing in the game, it was like, man, I felt like that's true. I felt like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I was just kind of moving through without having the end result would have been the same, whether I did it or not.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, and that's another thing I was going to mention, too, is we've discussed this before off podcast, but, obviously we're recording these episodes. We're tacking on, doing the jumps on top of everything, which is a lot. And, when you're putting us into this 1 hour limit, I remember recording the episode and, I keep track of time, so we're kind of falling into that bracket. And we were getting kind of close on time to where we felt like we kind of had to wrap things up almost quicker because the combat took up a large portion of it. And I think for me that was a big part of it, is we just kind of rushed our way through it. We should have either made it a long episode or put it into a second one, or
a second episode.
And we're learning from that, and we're doing better hopefully with future jumps. And we've also discussed this. Those slow episodes are going to happen, whether it's the finales or a lot of the first jumps, we go to. It's kind of a slow character development, new person learning the mic with our guests. And
right. For sure. I think the first episode of any jump is going to feel slower, but it's so crucial that you establish that who you are, what is the world like, what's going on, all that, and that oftentimes will manifest itself into feeling like a quote-unquote slower episode, but in reality it is one of the most important episodes is the first one, because that's when you find out where they are, what's going on.
You're painting the picture.
Correct.
And there's a lot of information in those. Like I'm sure if you listen to them twice, it would be totally different the second time and have any idea. All right, so we'll move on from that. We're not really apologizing, I guess, but kind of apologizing. We hope you guys didn't get that feel from the episode and the finale of Mutants and Masterminds, but...
Right, some people might love it.
Yeah, but we just kind of felt, I don't know, blah about it.
Yeah, felt like it could have been better.
On that same note, here's where Nate just would not stop. On that same note, I figure since we're already talking about Mutants and Masterminds, why don't we, quote-unquote, review the system? Now, keep a couple things in mind here. We're not officially reviewing this, and we're not official reviewers. What I want to do is basically review it from our focus of the story we played, the mechanics we noticed, how we kind of felt about it on the podcast. We've only played, I think it was 8 episodes, if I remember correctly. So we only played 8 episodes, an hour each. That's 8 hours. So, realistically, we've played maybe 3 to 4 sessions. I mean, total, if you were to sit down with friends. So maybe a month's worth if you played once a week. So it's not like we play this extensive, long, 2-year-long campaign. So from a DM's perspective, Brad.
Also, keep in mind that we played the basic system.
Right. I was going to mention that, too.
There's basically 2 systems of Mutants and Masterminds. There's the basic and the deluxe. The basic system is what we played, and it is limited as to the heroes and the villains and
the mechanics.
Some of the mechanics of the game, and I have read the deluxe rule since our playing of it, and it does like hash out a lot of the stuff that was sort of felt difficult or uncomfortable. Like there needs to be more. That's all addressed in the deluxe edition as well. So.
Well, and I'll go ahead and mention, Nate has already mentioned his kind of thing of the teamwork, right? Your overall point was like...
Which it was just
the teamwork felt forced more than...
No, it's just more of a different mechanic. Like, they make you call out stuff, and it's just a different mindset. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed being like, okay, so this is what we kind of need to do, and it creates like a table talk banter.
So... my thoughts on it is we've obviously come from a fantasy D&D background. I really enjoyed the teamwork feat, and in fact, I've been trying to work it, not feat. We keep saying feat. It's just teamwork.
Feature.
Yeah, sure. But the teamwork, I've been trying to implement it in my D&D games, actually, because I really enjoy the fact of, being able to help each other indirectly, I guess, for lack of a better term. But my problem, if I had to pick any problem Mutant and Masterminds is because you're a superhero, you're very limited in the things you can do. So a simple example is like you have your, 3 powers or 4 powers or whatever, and you can pretty much do those 4 powers and that's it. Because you're fighting other superheroes, it's not like you can really think outside the box and do anything more, if that makes any sense. So I don't know, when you're playing fantasy, with all the magic and you can be, jumping off of stuff or, some games in later editions you can grapple and tackle and do all sorts of things, punch and weapons and things like that. But in Mutants and Masterminds, it's superheroes. So if they're not a super villain, they're a piece of cake to it, kind of what Brad touched on. They're a piece of cake. They're not even a threat to you like the bandits or whatever, the thugs.
Well, but I mean, if they had all used, those guys, the gang, I guess, if they had all used teamwork and shot you, then I think you would be in danger.
But I mean, I don't know, it felt like they were very insignificant. And then the ones that did matter, in my case, I could basically punch him, ground smash him, or I had rock darts that I never used because they were pretty useless. But it was smash, and it was I could do those 3 things, and that's pretty much it. There's not really any outside the box.
Right, and going down that avenue, it forces you to not rely on actions to define your character,
right?
As much as it does the role play to define your character.
Well, and we also played level 1 characters essentially, so we weren't very deep in the game. So I don't know how advancement works, if you get more powers or
in the deluxe edition, it goes way more into that.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's just kind of what I felt is combat was very repetitive because it didn't feel like there was a lot I could do.
Well, and that's the other thing is you were fighting someone like you.
Yeah.
And so I think in that aspect, you have to be okay, I'm not doing anything to this. This is where teamwork comes in. I'm going to grapple him or punch him, and then it'll open him up for Mr. Muthill to mind blast him because his will's low or something. Well,
and the other thing, too, I was going to mention for me is I hated having the 2 rolls, basically hitting their armor class. And then their toughness, getting through their toughness.
Right, you make an attack.
I hated it because it was it felt like a bunch of unnecessary rolls. But as we played more and more, I actually liked it quite a bit because it gave a deeper character. You could hit this dude; he's super easy to hit, but you can't actually hurt him. You're hitting him and doing absolute it put that that exists in D&D and other games basically with armor class. If you get close to what their armor class is, you basically hit them, but just didn't get through their armor type of situation. But the fact that it actually put it into a roll, I thought was really cool. So initially it was a lot for me, but I think later on as we played, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It put it into a better perspective. So, but anyways, Brad, from a DMing point, I guess, you kind of mentioned it already too.
Right, and there's, I've as a game master who's played as a game master in many systems over the many years, I've run into all different kinds of systems, and this falls into the sort of rely more on the story and less on your character sheets.
Gotcha.
It's one of those. Well, at least the basic game of Mutants and Masterminds is.
True.
As the deluxe comes out, it kind of skinnies that out a little bit. But I like the system. And I think for somebody that was perhaps interested in playing this game for a campaign, like I want to play a superhero game, what's a good system? Absolutely would recommend it. But just word of advice, definitely flush out your world. Definitely have lots of places, faces, names, and stuff, because that will create an immersion for the characters a lot more so. And it's more relevant in Mutants and Masterminds. It relies on it more for that immersion, for that story experience, because the character sheets, telling like Greg was saying, you have a power suite that you can use. Outside of that, you're forced to kind of role play to make it hero-y, and establish the feel falls a lot on not just the DM and the world creation, but the players have to be very malleable as far as what they envision their characters doing, going from the mind to the mouth, kind of make it happen. And that's, it's definitely for more advanced players, in my opinion. But, I don't want to shy away new role players from it either. But I would recommend they start with more of the basic system.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to review this, but apparently we're going to have to review this. So let's do a final out of the three of us. Let's go yay or nay, Brad.
Yay or nay for
the system. Like recommending the system for people to play.
Yes, I would recommend it, but I would recommend it for people that have role-playing experience.
I would recommend it even if you just like superheroes. I think it's a good system. I think it's simple enough. I mean, it's not hard to understand. It just can feel dry, but if you like superheroes, it would be, I think, a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, no, in my mind's eye, I loved flying around and doing all that, and I had fun playing my character. And so, yeah, I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Mutants and Masterminds.
Recommend it.
Yeah, sweet. Approved by the Losers of Initiative. All right, let's move on. We've spent about 20 minutes on this.
Okay.
Although we did feel deeply about this, so I'm glad we spent some time to talk about it, because, we're trying to do better, I guess, or something in things. All right, so we're going to move on to the next, since we're already talking about games, and we're not reviewing games, right? Because that's apparently a thing we do now. Let's just move back to Boothill. It was a while ago. It was probably like 2 or 3 months ago we recorded it, I feel like. It was quite a while ago. So the story was good. Loved the story. There was no arguments there. We mentioned it in another Fireside that it was a great ending. I think it all tied together. The mystery and all that worked out really well. So the big question, I guess, we'll just go around, starting with Nate this time. Just your thoughts on the mechanics and the story in the game of Boothill.
Hands down, I love the mechanics. Just like the shooting and everything like that, and going into, I can't even remember what it was called. The
Shootout mode.
Shootout round.
Yeah, shootout round. Yeah, I love that. It was just a lot of fun in my mind. I just loved playing that one. So, yes, I like it.
Just
Brad?
Universal yes.
Brad is the DM.
All right. Well, I talk a lot. So here we go.
Try and shorten this one up a touch.
Boothill. Boothill it's an older game. It was still in the infancy of role-playing games, early 80s, 81, 82-ish. I think that the mechanics of the game were clunky, and I think it didn't seem that way just because I modified, I updated, I kind of modernized Boothill. I definitely stayed 90% core true to the rules.
Right.
But I did have to streamline some things. It is a dated game, but it is a great game. Setting, concept, it only needs a little bit. Once again, it's kind of, if you're going to, as a player, piece of cake. But as a GM, to run it well, you do have to have some kind of experience GMing going in.
Yeah.
because there is a lot of seemingly contradicting rules, but you have to kind of fine-tooth comb them to see that they're not really contradicting. It's very situational. It's oftentimes not intuitive as to the rules, and sometimes you need low, sometimes you need high.
Yeah, the old school
things like that. And but if you can wrangle the beast, if you can kind of wrap that all up and get, I recommend running some practice sessions before you actually start your campaign. It's absolutely a wonderful system, and it is a highly underutilized setting. The Wild West, as an American, and have feelings about the Wild West. Whether you love it or hate it, you still know about it. Jesse James and Wyatt Earp and the OK Corral. That's part of every child's growing up. And I think that it's underutilized. I think we need to see more, especially modern role-playing games, hit on these issues, hit on the setting, because I think it would do really well.
Yeah, that's true. There hasn't been one in a while. Actually, we picked Boothill because, well, one, you were a little familiar with it, but, I mean, there's not really, like, modern Western games, really, that fit.
Right.
Some of those, like, multi-genre games kind of touched on it, but there wasn't one that was, like, made specifically for, which we've talked about in our previous Fireside of why we chose it. But anyways, my thoughts as a player, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It felt very D&D first edition to me, so it wasn't too far-fetched. It's hard to... Games like that, it's difficult because it's so realistic. And you think about, like, the Wild West, I mean, it is so realistic to where, like, when you're sitting down playing a tabletop game, I want it to be kind of fantasy, hyped up, like...
Well, it's like an escape.
Right, yeah, like, drink my potion and I'm fine again. Where, like, Boot Hill, it's like, I got shot in the leg and now I'm crippled for the next 14 years, or whatever. So... that's tough, but that's a part of the setting, and I think it felt that way, which is good. That's what it meant to do. I did enjoy the firefights, although I was not involved in very many of them, being I was in a bow against guns, which was awful. But
you brought it. Way to go, Hawkeye.
Yeah, but the thing I enjoyed about it is how they did the cover system. It wasn't so much of like hitting a THAC0 to an armor class or a 2-hit to an armor class situation. It was like you're just shooting against your own number. If you hit your own number, you basically hit them, you were accurate enough, but then you had to hit the cover. And so you're kind of rolling on a hit location, but hit location based on where you were for cover. So it was like this...
Right, if their right shoulder was behind a cover and you hit them in the right shoulder, you hit the cover instead.
Right, yeah, you kind of hit the cover instead. And so I think that was a cool mechanic of like a way to utilize cover. Like in most games, I'm trying to think of any game.
Yeah, it's just a flat modifier to your 2-hit.
And there's no... And like I play a lot of Pathfinder. That's like my go-to game. And like there's cover like in Pathfinder. There's charts and stuff for like laying down, prone, kneeling, and all that. I've played for probably 4 years or 5 years of Pathfinder. I don't think I've ever once seen anybody, maybe once or twice, seen anybody actually use cover or kneel down or lay down to add that modifier. Like
do it correctly.
It's just not something that people use. And I think Boot Hill kind of because it's so brutal, it forces you to use that. And I thought that was really cool. And then there's the chance of, if you even hit the cover. I mean, it's like, you're rolling on your own stat. If you need was it 20-sided, needing low? I can't remember. You needed whatever to roll, and you rolled it. Like, yay, I hit him. But it's like, did you hit him? If their whole left half of the body is behind a pillar, you may hit the pillar, waist down, whatever. I mean, it's so. I thought that was really cool. So, overall, starting with Nate, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay. A bigger yay than Mutants and Masterminds?
Yeah,
definitely. But I think that's just because it's a system that A, I'm more familiar with,
right,
and B, it's an easier setting system for characters and opponents to interact with each other and all that.
I think my thought is it's kind of fallen back into the role playing. Like if you don't like a lot of combat, because if you combat, you are in a world of trouble in that game because it's so hard and realistic. But I mean, if you like the Wild West and you've wanted to try it, I think it's super good. It felt very Wild West to me, which is the point of why we played it. So, yeah, yay from me as well. Cool.
But I think with yays and nays, we're going to get mostly yays on most of our games.
Approved by Losers of Initiative.
Because we're pre-screening the games before we play them.
Right. We try and get games that feel very and are highly rated and get lots of reviews and stuff. That is true, but
which is why we're not really a rating podcast.
Right. Yeah, that's not that. Yeah, we're not here to do reviews. But But it is good for us to give our thoughts on the mechanics of what we enjoyed about the game.
Right.
So, and that's basically what this is.
Basically, I give Mutants and Mastermind an 80. I give Boothill like an 85.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're not adding numbers.
grade.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with
We're not
that.
adding numbers. We're not adding grades. Okay.
Well, yeah, your nays is
84.9.
Pass fail is kind of difficult. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So now we're going to do something fun.
Fun-ish.
We're going to do something kind of fun-ish, and then we're going to be pretty much out of time because we ramble a lot.
Yay.
I have an interesting debate / would you rather for you guys, okay?
Go for it.
So let's say that you're eating a spoonful of food.
Delicious.
Whatever it is. Mac
love
and cheese.
food.
We'll say mac and cheese, huh?
Extra cheesy, please.
Would you rather, in that bite of food in your mouth, find a Band-Aid, used Band-Aid, or a fallen off fingernail? Long pause while we process this one. It has to be one of the two.
Fingernail.
Fingernail.
Why?
Might be mine. I don't know. A fingernail.
See, I went around on this for a while because I mean it's bad. It's bad no matter how you split it.
Right.
Nah, hands down, fingernail.
God, I don't know, man.
See, I'm going fingernail just because, it's dirty, but so it's a Band-Aid. But you have to think kind of dirty.
Yeah.
Like, for a reference, women's restrooms don't smell as bad as men's restrooms, but I would much rather clean a man's restroom because the surprises you might find are predictable.
Okay.
As opposed to the surprises you might find in a woman's restroom may be very surprising. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same basic principle.
I think I'd go Band-Aid.
With the fingernail, is it got like clumps of mold on it, or is it just look like
being as generic as it is, it's because like the Band-Aid's another one too. Is it like folded over? The sticky onto the
Yep. Is there like
part?
a big blood spot on the bandage
Or is
part?
it like a green ooze?
Yeah. Whereas the fingernail, is it just like a clean white fingernail that's been freshly clipped and it's just in your macaroni and cheese?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking like a whole fingernail, but like a woman's fake fingernail. That's what I'm thinking of.
Like an acrylic nail that has fallen off? Oh,
Yeah.
That's definitely the fingernail then.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be tough.
The Band-Aid is covering somebody's open wound.
What if it's just like a paper cut?
Is there blood on the Band-Aid?
Yeah, a little bit. We'll say.
Then hell no.
What if it was on some dude's penis?
Oh, Jesus, Nate. What if
Who puts a Band-Aid on their penis?
I don't know. Who has
Nate does?
Who
Clearly.
has their penis close enough to mac and cheese for a Band-Aid to fall
Somebody
in?
that really loves mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like,
What if it's like a fingernail that's like dyed, like a normal fingernail, and it somehow just falls off? I don't know how that would happen. Does that make it grosser?
The entire fingernail has fallen off because of some sort of like leprosy.
now, is this
know.
like did I just make this mac and cheese?
Yeah.
Or did I
Oh.
ordered it at a
No,
restaurant?
ordered it at a
I'm
restaurant.
sitting at a restaurant eating this bowl
See,
of mac
I mean,
and
who
cheese.
knows how long it's been in there? The whole mac and cheese is contaminated, so like, I'd still do fingernail.
Fingernail, yep.
I'm on the
There's
fence. You know what?
Both of them are gross.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but there's less potential gross from the
From
fingernail.
the fingernail. Yeah, that's true. Nope, I'm going to put my foot down and be against the flow of the
No, you're gross.
current, and I'm going to go Band-Aid.
Now, how good is this mac and cheese?
Ooh.
Because he'll eat your Band-Aid mac and
You know
cheese.
what?
if it's really
It's an 84.5 out of 100.
Okay.
I've had better.
Have you? Okay.
Well, because I'm debating like just picking the fingernail out
And still eating the mac
still
and cheese.
eating it.
Yeah, okay. So would
Well,
you
the
still eat?
fingernail's in your mouth because you put the
Well,
spoon.
right. Yeah.
Pick it out of my mouth.
Would I
finish
finish?
eating the mac and cheese?
No, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah, there's no probably. I wouldn't finish eating the mac and cheese.
It depends on how good it is.
It's 100%. There's no other.
I'd just stop by McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah.
I'd just take like an extra.
You know what it'd come down to for me? No, it wouldn't. I was gonna say how much I paid for it, because you're paying like $20 for mac and cheese. You're eating it.
No,
but
at
that point,
I'd
you'd get
my
your money back.
I'd get my
Yeah.
money back at that
Yeah.
point. If it's just like a side
What if
dish
they're
of
like?
mac and cheese,
What if
I'd
they're
be
like? Oh, I'm
whatevs.
sorry. I'll bring you a new one.
Nope. I lost my mac and cheese appetite.
Hmm.
Because of what Nate said. Is there a big vat of mac and cheese that they're scooping my stuff
Yeah,
out of back
yeah.
there? And the
'Cause
fingernail was in
everything's
that?
contaminated.
'Cause
What if it's a toenail? You know what? I'm gonna call it there. We're not gonna.
Yeah, we're just gonna go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening again. If you guys have any questions, feel free to find us anywhere on the internet. We look forward to any questions you have, regardless of how relevant or irrelevant they are.
Please send us questions. We need them.
Yeah. I don't know. We just rambled for like 40 minutes.
I don't know. I'm tired of Greg's questions.
Yeah,
I need some new ones.
I want some fresh ones out there.
But I feel like my questions.
Thanks,
are-
guys.
All
Send
right.
us questions.
All right.